My dear friends, let's settle this once and for all. You walk up to a woman, you look her in the eye, and you say, "I am pretty." And she looks back at you and walks away. Why? Because beauty is not what comes from your lips. It is what radiates from your being. The world has told you that if you look good, life will be easy. But tell me, how many so-called pretty faces are lonely? How many handsome men are ignored? If looks were everything, why do relationships fail despite beauty? Clearly, something bigger is at play. Looks alone don't guarantee attraction. You see, the world has sold you a lie, a grand, glittering illusion, that if you're pretty, life will lay itself at your feet. That if your jawline is sharp enough, your hair perfectly in place, and your clothes just right, she will fall for you. But tell me, have you ever seen a breathtakingly good-looking man stand in a room full of people and yet no one turns to look at him? And have you ever seen a man with nothing particularly extraordinary about his face walk into that same room and suddenly all eyes are drawn to him? What is this magic? What is this unseen force that makes one person unforgettable while another, despite all his physical perfection, is invisible? It is not beauty. It is presence. It is energy. It is the way you command a space without begging for attention. A man who relies only on his looks is like a book with a stunning cover but blank pages. You might catch her eye for a moment, but then what? The moment she opens that book and finds nothing but emptiness, she will close it, put it back on the shelf, and never think of it again. A woman is not drawn to the shape of your face. She is drawn to the shape of your being. She is not looking for a pretty face. She is looking for a presence so strong that it makes her forget the world around her. She wants to feel something. And if all you have to offer is, "I am pretty," then you are offering her nothing at all. A lion does not roar to prove that he is a lion. The ocean does not scream to remind you of its depth. And a truly attractive man does not have to announce his worth. His very presence whispers it into the air, making people turn, making them wonder, making them feel something they cannot quite explain. Tell me, do you think the most powerful men in history walked into a room and said, "I am handsome"? Do you think warriors, kings, and legends conquered the world with their cheekbones? No. They had something far greater, an energy that could silence a room, a presence that could shake the ground they walked on. Women do not want pretty boys. They want men who make them feel alive. A man who doesn't just look good in pictures, but makes the air shift when he enters a space. A man who speaks not with words alone, but with a certainty in his step, a fire in his gaze, and a calmness in his soul that says, "I know who I am, and I do not need to prove it." You say you are pretty? No, she is not looking for that. She is looking for a man who is unshaken. A man who stands firm in his essence, who doesn't seek permission to be powerful, who doesn't ask for validation like a beggar. A man who doesn't just exist, he arrives. And when you arrive like that, she will not see your face first. She will feel your presence before she even turns to look at you. She will sense something rare, something undeniable, something she cannot quite put into words, but it will make her heartbeat change. It will make her wonder, who is this? Not because you said you are pretty, not because you tried to impress, but because you became something so compelling that she could not ignore it. Because you stopped focusing on looking good and started focusing on being unforgettable. Confidence is silent, desperation is loud. Look around you. Look at the men who scream for attention, who try too hard, who throw words like confetti, hoping that something, anything will make her turn and notice them. They wear the most expensive brands, flex their watches, flex their muscles, and yet, somehow, they are invisible. Why? Because desperation stinks. It repels. It suffocates. And no woman wants to drown in it. A confident man walks into a room, and he does not need to announce his arrival. He does not need to shout to be heard. He does not need to prove anything to anyone. His silence speaks. His stillness roars. His presence is not something he forces. It is something that simply is. And that is what makes people turn. That is what makes her notice. That is what makes her want to know more. Desperation is the sound of a man who does not know himself. It is the voice of someone seeking permission to be seen, approval to be worthy, validation to exist. It is the way a man leans too close, laughs too hard, tries too much. It is the constant need to impress, to fill every silence with words, to chase, to cling, to prove. But tell me, have you ever seen a king beg to be noticed? Have you ever seen a warrior plead for someone's approval? No, because true power does not chase. A confident man does not need to explain why he is confident. He does not need to perform. He does not need to be loud. He does not need to convince you of his worth. He knows who he is, and that is enough. And when a man moves with this kind of certainty, the world shifts around him. Women feel it. People respect it. Even silence bends in his presence, because his energy alone is enough to fill the space. Do you know what is truly magnetic? A man who is comfortable in his own skin. A man who does not flinch in the face of rejection because he is not defined by another person's approval. A man who does not seek attention, yet commands it. A man who does not chase, yet is pursued. This is not arrogance. This is not ego. This is knowing. This is the quiet, unshakable confidence of a man who has mastered himself. The desperate man always wants something from her. He wants her attention, her validation, her approval. He places her on a pedestal and hopes she will look down at him. But the confident man, he is the pedestal. He is not there to impress her. He is there to witness her. He does not need her validation, but if she earns his attention, she will feel like she has won something rare, something precious, something not easily given. And that is the difference. One man is a beggar, the other is a force. One tries too hard, the other simply is. One is exhausting, the other is irresistible. A woman wants to feel something, not just hear something. Words are cheap, words are everywhere. Men throw compliments at women like loose change, hoping that one will be valuable enough to buy her attention. But tell me, do you think she has never been told she is beautiful before? Do you think she has never heard a man say, "You are stunning," or "You are the most amazing woman I've ever met"? These words, no matter how poetic, no matter how sweet, have been whispered into her ears 1,000 times. They do not touch her soul. They do not make her feel. They do not make her heart race. But presence changes everything. A man who truly knows himself does not need to tell a woman what she is. He allows her to feel it. He does not say, "You are special." He makes her feel like she's standing in the presence of someone rare. He does not say, "You are beautiful." He looks at her in such a way that she feels like she is the only woman in the world. Have you ever seen a man who does not rush to fill every silence? A man who does not speak to impress, but speaks with purpose? His words land differently. His presence is not just seen, it is felt. And that, my friend, is what she is drawn to. Not just your words, not just your lines, but the way you make her feel. Women are not moved by empty compliments. They are moved by an experience, a moment. A shift in energy that they cannot explain but cannot ignore. She wants to feel excitement, mystery, intrigue. She wants to feel the depth of a man who is not just putting on an act, but who truly understands himself. Because a man who understands himself understands her. Tell me, have you ever met someone who made you forget where you were? Who made time feel different? Who made the air between you feel electric, even if they barely spoke? That is power. That is presence. That is what makes her heart beat faster, what makes her mind linger on you long after you have left the room. When a man talks too much, when he tries too hard, when he fills every moment with words, he kills the very thing that makes attraction so powerful. Feeling. She does not want a lecture, she does not want a performance, she wants an experience, a moment that makes her stomach tighten, a presence that makes her forget everything else around her. This is why the loudest men are often ignored, while the silent ones, when they know how to hold their space, become unforgettable. Because a woman does not fall for words. She falls for the way a man makes her feel without needing to say a thing. Stop seeking validation. Instead, cultivate an energy that draws people in. Look at the world around you. People are constantly chasing approval. They dress a certain way, speak a certain way, walk a certain way, all because they are desperate for someone, anyone, to look at them and say you are enough. But the moment you need validation, you have already lost. Because the man who needs approval is a man who has not yet discovered his own worth. A woman does not want a man who begs for her attention. She does not want a man who hangs on to her every word, waiting for a sign that he is good enough for her. She does not want a man who shifts his entire personality to match her preferences just to earn her approval. Because the moment you seek validation, you place her above you. And the moment she senses that she is above you, she is no longer interested in you. The men who are truly wanted, the men who own the room without saying a word, they do not seek permission to be desirable. They do not ask, am I good enough? They do not look around searching for someone to tell them they are worthy. They know they are. And that knowing radiates from them like fire. When a man is centered in himself, when he does not need anyone to confirm his worth, his energy changes. He becomes the kind of man people want to be around, not because he is trying to impress them, but because there is something undeniable about him. He moves through the world with certainty. He does not need to prove himself, because his presence alone is proof. Tell me, have you ever seen a lion ask for approval? Have you ever seen a storm ask for permission before it shakes the earth? Have you ever seen a river beg to be noticed as it carves through mountains? No. They simply are, and that is enough. That is power. That is what makes people watch in awe. A woman does not want a man who asks, am I good enough for you? She wants a man whose presence is so undeniable that the real question becomes, am I good enough to be part of his world? That is the shift. That is the moment everything changes. Not when you try to impress her, but when you become so whole within yourself that she cannot help but be drawn to you. So do not chase, do not beg, do not perform, simply become. And when you do, you will not need to seek validation, because the world will recognize what you have become without you ever having to ask. The most attractive men are not the best looking, but the most self-assured. You have been fooled into thinking that attraction is about your jawline, the symmetry of your face, the clothes you wear, the car you drive. You have been taught that if you can perfect your outer image, women will be drawn to you like moths to a flame. But tell me, have you ever seen a man who has it all? Looks, money, status, yet struggles to hold a woman's attention for more than a fleeting moment? And have you ever seen a man who by society's standards is nothing extraordinary, walk into a room and become the center of gravity? What is this power? What is this force that makes one man magnetic and another invisible? It is not beauty. It is not wealth. It is self-assurance. A man who is truly attractive is not chasing approval. He is not sculpting himself into what he thinks the world wants him to be. He is rooted in who he is. He walks into any room with a quiet certainty, an unshakable knowing that he belongs, not because someone granted him permission, but because he has given permission to himself. Women do not fall for looks, they fall for presence. A man who knows himself radiates something that cannot be faked, something that cannot be bought. It is an energy, an essence, a way of moving through the world that makes people take notice. Not because he is trying to be seen, but because his presence demands it. Have you ever met a man who does not rush to fill silence? A man who does not fidget, who does not seek reassurance, who is simply at peace within himself? That man, no matter his height, no matter the structure of his face, no matter the numbers in his bank account, becomes someone people gravitate toward. Because confidence is felt. It is not in what you say. It is not in what you wear. It is in the way you carry yourself, the way you hold your space, the way you exist without apology, the way you move through life without needing the world to validate you. Women can sense self-doubt like sharks smell blood in the water. The moment you seek approval, the moment you look to her for validation, she knows. And in that moment, you have lost. Not because you are not good enough, but because you have placed her above you. And a woman does not want a man who puts her on a pedestal. She wants a man who stands beside her, solid, unwavering, untouchable. Tell me, when the storm comes, does the mountain tremble? When the ocean roars, does the rock crumble? No. And that is what makes them powerful. That is what makes them awe-inspiring. A man who is sure of himself, who does not need to prove his worth but simply embodies it, becomes a force that cannot be ignored. It is not the man who tries to be attractive that is truly wanted. It is the man who knows he is enough, with or without her attention. It is the man who does not need to be chosen, because he has already chosen himself. Charisma is not about what you say, but how you make people feel. The world is filled with men who talk endlessly, who try to impress with stories, accomplishments, and clever lines. They believe that if they can just say the right thing, the right words, the perfect sentence, she will feel something. But words alone do not create attraction. A man can talk for hours, but if his presence does not stir something inside her, it is all just noise. Think of the people who have left an unforgettable impression on you. Was it because of the exact words they said, or was it something else? A feeling, an energy, a presence. The way they carried themselves, the way they looked at you, the way they held space. That is charisma. That is what lingers in the mind long after the moment has passed. A woman does not remember a man because he told her she was beautiful. She remembers him because of how she felt when he looked at her. She does not remember the compliments. She remembers the way his presence shifted the air around her. She does not remember a conversation. She remembers the way his energy made her feel alive. Charisma is not loud. It is not desperate. It does not beg for attention. It draws attention effortlessly. A man with true charisma does not need to say much. He does not need to be the loudest voice in the room. He does not need to fight for approval. He simply is. His silence speaks. His presence commands. His energy pulls people in. Have you ever watched a great actor in a scene where he says nothing, yet you cannot take your eyes off him? Why? Because presence speaks louder than words. Because a man who feels deeply, who is grounded in himself, who knows who he is, he does not need to convince anyone of his worth. He radiates it. Most men focus on the external. They think charisma is about saying the right thing, dressing the right way, standing in a certain posture. But true charisma is internal. It is the way you feel about yourself when no one is watching. It is the energy you carry when you walk into a room. It is a calm certainty within you that does not need validation from anyone. Women are not drawn to men who try too hard. They are drawn to men who are so comfortable in their own skin that their presence feels like home. They are drawn to men who do not chase but who create a space that makes them want to stay. Tell me, have you ever seen fire chase people? No. People gather around it. People are drawn to it. People feel something when they are near it. That is charisma. That is attraction. That is what makes a man unforgettable. Not his words, not his looks, but the undeniable energy he carries. Women are not drawn to men who seek attention, but to those who command it effortlessly. Look around you. Everywhere men are competing for attention. Louder voices, bigger gestures, desperate attempts to be noticed. They think if they can be seen enough, heard enough, validated enough, they will become desirable. But tell me, have you ever seen a king beg to be noticed? Have you ever seen a lion try to prove its dominance? The most powerful presence is not the one that shouts the loudest, but the one that does not need to shout at all. The man who seeks attention is a performer. He is constantly watching, adjusting, shaping himself based on how others react. He is like a beggar, holding out his hands for scraps of validation. And the moment you seek approval, you lower yourself. You become one of the many, one of the forgettable, one of the desperate. But a man who commands attention, he does not ask for it. He does not chase it. He does not perform for it. He simply is. His presence alone shifts the energy in the room, not because he is trying, but because he is rooted in himself so deeply that people cannot help but notice. Tell me, when fire burns, does it ask people to gather around it? No, they are drawn to it. It does not need to prove its warmth, its power, its existence. It simply is, and that is enough. A man with true presence operates in the same way. He does not convince, he does not perform, he embodies. Women are not moved by men who seek their approval. They are moved by men who do not need it. A man who is complete within himself, who does not shift his personality just to impress. That is the man who stands apart. That is the man who makes a woman pause, who makes her wonder, what is it about him? Desperation repels, confidence attracts. When you are desperate to be noticed, you become invisible. But when you move through life without the need to be seen, you become something worth noticing. When a man walks into a room fully owning himself, his energy, his presence, his being, he does not need to ask for attention. It follows him like a shadow. A woman is not drawn to a man because he wants her to be. She is drawn to him because he does not need her to be. She senses the difference. She feels the shift. And that is what makes her want to step closer, to know more, to feel more. Not because he is asking for her interest, but because something in him demands it. Without a single word, confidence is not about proving yourself to others. It is about being so certain in who you are that you no longer need to. The weak man is always trying to show the world his worth. He wears his status like a badge, flaunts his wealth like a trophy, boasts about his accomplishments as if they define him. But tell me, have you ever seen a truly powerful man explain why he is powerful? No, because power does not need explanation. Presence does not need validation. Confidence is silent, insecurity is loud. Most men make the mistake of thinking confidence is about external things. They believe that if they get the right car, the right watch, the right body, they will finally feel secure. But external confidence is like a mask. It cracks the moment someone questions it. It shatters the moment things do not go your way. Because deep down you know that your confidence is built on something temporary, something outside of you. But true confidence, it is something else entirely. It does not come from what you own. It does not come from what others think of you. It comes from knowing yourself so completely that no one's opinion can shake you. It comes from an unshakable belief that you are enough, with or without approval, with or without validation, with or without someone telling you that you are worthy. Look at the great men of history. The ones who built empires, who led nations, who shaped the world. Did they walk into a room desperate to impress? Did they seek permission to be great? No, they moved with certainty. They did not try to prove their worth, they embodied it. A woman does not want a man who constantly looks to her for reassurance. She does not want a man who needs her approval to feel whole. She wants a man who is already whole within himself. Because a man who is truly confident does not chase, does not beg, does not seek validation. He stands still and the world moves around him. Have you ever met someone who, without saying much, makes you feel their presence? Who does not need to be loud but somehow dominates the space around them? That is confidence. It is the quiet certainty, the deep knowing that you are enough just as you are. Women are not drawn to men who try to prove themselves. They are drawn to men who do not need to. A man who walks through life with or without approval, with or without recognition, with or without validation, is a man who commands attention effortlessly. Not because he seeks it, but because something in him demands it. Attraction is not about chasing. It is about creating a pull so strong that she cannot ignore it. The world has taught men the wrong approach. It tells them to pursue, to impress, to prove themselves. It tells them that the way to win a woman's heart is through grand gestures, endless compliments, and relentless effort. But tell me, have you ever seen a magnet chase metal? No. It simply exists and the pull is automatic. This is the secret most men never understand. The more you chase, the more she runs. The less you need, the more she wants. A man who chases is a man who lacks something. He is looking outside of himself for completion. He believes that if he can just convince her, just prove himself, just do enough, she will choose him. But the moment you place her on a pedestal, the moment you make her the prize, you have already lost. Because a woman does not want to be your goal. She wants to be drawn into your world without effort, without force, without pressure. The most desirable men do not chase, they become. They cultivate a presence, an energy, a life, so full and complete that people naturally want to be around them. They do not run after women because they are already moving with purpose, with direction, with vision. A man with a powerful gravitational pull does not have to pursue, he simply exists. And everything he desires is drawn toward him. Look at the ocean. Does it chase the rivers? No. The rivers flow toward it naturally. Look at the sun. Does it beg the planets to orbit it? No. It simply shines and everything else moves around it. This is how true attraction works. Not through force, not through effort, but through presence, through being. Women are deeply intuitive. They can sense desperation before you even speak. They can feel when a man is seeking approval, when he is needy for her attention. And nothing is more unattractive than neediness. Neediness tells her that you lack something, that you need her to feel complete. And the moment she senses that, she pulls away. Not because she does not like you, but because her attraction is designed to be drawn to strength, not to weakness. But when you stop chasing, when you stop needing, when you become a man who is so whole within himself that he does not seek anything outside of him, everything changes. You move differently, you speak differently, your energy shifts. You no longer act out of fear, out of scarcity, out of desperation. You act out of power, out of presence, out of certainty. The man who does not chase is the man who is chased. The man who does not need is the man who is wanted. The man who is already complete is the man who draws others in effortlessly. He is the magnet. He is the force. He is the one who creates the pull. And in his presence, a woman does not feel pressured. She feels compelled to come closer. The man who controls his emotions controls everything. Most men are slaves to their feelings. If a woman gives them attention, they feel high. If she pulls away, they feel lost. If life goes their way, they are confident. If things go wrong, they collapse. Their entire sense of self is tied to external forces, things they cannot control. And this is why they fail. Because a man who is ruled by his emotions is like a leaf in the wind, tossed around by circumstances, never grounded, never steady. But the man who masters his emotions, he becomes untouchable. Tell me, have you ever seen a storm shake the mountain? Have you ever seen the ocean's waves move the sun from its place? No, because true power does not react. It remains still, unshaken, unmovable. A man who has control over his emotions does not beg, does not chase, does not break. He does not react to life, he directs life. He does not fall into chaos, he creates order within himself. And that is what makes him powerful. Most men believe that being emotional makes them attractive. That if they show how deeply they feel, if they reveal their fears, their insecurities, their need for love, a woman will admire them for it. But tell me, does the fire beg for someone to keep it burning? Does the lion whimper when it is alone? No. A man who is whole within himself, who does not crumble under pressure, who does not lose himself in emotions. He is the one who commands respect, attention, and desire. A woman does not want a man who is controlled by his emotions. She does not want a man who crumbles when things do not go his way. She wants a man who can stand firm no matter what happens. A man who can hold his ground no matter the storm. Because in his presence, she feels safe. In his presence, she feels secure. Not because he gives her constant reassurance, but because his very existence is reassurance. Think of the most powerful men in history. Did they react emotionally to every little thing? Did they allow themselves to be shaken by the world? No. They remained composed. They remained steady. They remained in control. And that is why they led. That is why they commanded armies, shaped nations, built legacies. Because the world follows a man who is not moved by the world. A woman will test you. She will challenge you. Not because she wants you to fail, but because she wants to know what you are made of. Will you break under pressure? Will you crumble when things do not go your way? Will you lose yourself in emotions and beg for her approval? Or will you stand firm, unshaken, immovable? A man who controls his emotions is the man who controls everything. He is the man who cannot be manipulated, who cannot be swayed, who cannot be broken. He is the man who holds his power instead of giving it away, and in doing so, he becomes a force that everyone, including her, is drawn to. The world does not give crowns to the weak. It does not bow before the desperate. It does not open its gates for the ones who beg, chase, or seek approval. The world moves for the man who moves with certainty. The man who does not ask for his place, but takes it. The man who does not need permission to be great, because he has already decided that he is. Look around you. The strongest do not chase. The most powerful do not seek validation. A lion does not concern himself with the opinions of sheep. A king does not ask the world if he is worthy, he declares it with his existence. The moment you realize this, the moment you step into your own power, everything shifts. You stop explaining, you stop proving, you stop waiting to be chosen, because you are the choice. Confidence is not something you put on like a jacket, it is something you become. It is something that exists deep within you, unshaken by rejection, unaffected by doubt. When you walk into a room, do not ask yourself, will they like me? Ask yourself, do I even care? When you speak, do not seek approval. Speak with the knowing that your words carry weight. When you move like a man who has nothing to prove, nothing to seek, nothing to beg for. Because that is the energy that commands respect, desire, and power. A man who is sure of himself does not chase, he attracts. He does not plead, he commands. He does not need, he has already become. And the world, including the people in it, is drawn to him like gravity. Not because he asks for it, but because something in him demands it without a single word. Understand this. You are not here to impress. You are here to express. You are not here to seek approval. You are here to become undeniable. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to build a presence so powerful that choosing you is the only option. Your life does not begin when someone validates you. Your power does not come from someone else's recognition. It comes from within. The moment you stop waiting for the world to tell you that you are enough is the moment you become unstoppable. The moment you stop chasing and start owning your space is the moment you become unforgettable. Greatness was never given to those who hesitated. It was never gifted to the ones who doubted themselves. It belongs to those who know their worth, own their presence, and walk through this world as if they are destined to leave a mark. Because they are. So, stop asking, stop seeking, stop waiting. Decide who you are, and then become it so completely that the world has no choice but to notice